webinar for future viewing if you're interested in watching it later, or if you know of someone else who might be interested. I've posted the link of where that will be in the chat, so hopefully you can see it there. This is Tartan Talks, our Monmouth webinar series, Monmouth Alumni Webinar Series. I'm Rachel Evans, Associate Director of Alumni Relations, and I'm so glad you're here to join us from all over the country, hopefully in the safety of your own homes or offices. A few logistical notes before I pass the floor over to Lindsay. The webinar will be recorded, as I already mentioned, and then there's chat and Q&A functions on the right side of your screen. If you don't see them, you can hold your mouse over the bottom of the screen and navigation bubbles will appear and you can turn those features on or off. Now I would like to introduce our speaker. Lindsay Hale leads a team of over 5,000 women rising to the top level of leadership with 31 gifts in only 5 years, while simultaneously managing marriage and motherhood. As a result of her overwhelming success with 31, Lindsay has developed a heart for inspiring and equipping other women through her bold, authentic storytelling style of leadership. Lindsay is the author of Lifted, How to Ditch Fear, Obligation, and Guilt and Live Your Best Life. She is a speaker, life coach, and most importantly, the wife to her high school sweetheart and the mother of 5 kids. Now I'd like to turn the floor over to Lindsay.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, thank you guys for being patient while I try to figure out what was happening with technology. Isn't this like the story of our lives? I swear I spent all my time trying to figure out technology and trying to figure out the password of the last place I logged in. So thank you so much for being patient with me on that, and thank you, Rachel, for having me and for that introduction. So I really want to talk to you guys a little bit about these people first. So this is my family. It's like we're like a large gang of people. And while I don't even feel like it's that many people, everyone else will say, oh my gosh, are those all your kids? And the answer is yes. Yes, that is my whole circus of people. And I absolutely love them and get to wake up every day and be their mother and his wife. And actually, my husband spent a lot of time on Mommas College campus because we are high school sweethearts. So he did not go to Monmouth, but he did a lot of weekend visits and Saturday visits with me. So this is my life's passion are these people. But the cool thing is that I wake up every single morning feeling really excited, like a giddy little teenage girl about putting my feet on the floor and getting ready to go to work. And I know that sounds kind of weird because a lot of people think that people don't really enjoy going to work every day. But I wake up every day so motivated to go to work because I'm able to work in my passion and purpose. And so that's what makes my time away from these people who I love the most in the whole world worth it, because I know exactly what I'm doing, where my passion is, where my purpose is. And so I absolutely adore my children, but I also adore what I do. And I think that when my purpose for coming to you guys today is talking to you about why I can think that way, why I can genuinely tell you guys I get excited to face most every day. That doesn't mean my life is perfect by any means, but I get excited to face most every day. And that's because I've learned over 13 years of being an entrepreneur that you have to mix life and business. So I want to ask you first and foremost to sort of think back to this little age of sweet innocence of these kids, probably 5, 6 years old, when you first started dreaming about what you wanted to be when you grew up. And I am used to facilitating and seeing faces, and since I can't see your faces and we're not on Facebook Live, I am so happy for you to type in the chat anything that you can think of that maybe you thought of when you were a young kid. So here we have some kids in some costumes, right? So they clearly want to be a firefighter, or they want to be a doctor, or they want to be a policeman or a businessman or a nurse. Amanda just typed in and said she wanted to be a teacher when she grew up. So isn't it fitting that we would think about what we wanted to be when we grew up, when we're talking about Monmouth College, and we're going back to those days, even thinking back to that time of what did you want to be when you grow up? And I don't know about you, but I have had my share of time in my life where I have felt like I still ask myself that question. What do I want to be when I grow up? And so I want to encourage you to start thinking about it differently, because most of us, now not all of us, I don't know how old the crowd is because I can't see you, but I do know that for me, there are certain things that I can't be anymore, right? Like if I wanted to be a ballet dancer, likely not going to happen. If you want to be a professional football player, probably not at this point, right? But what I want you to ask yourself is, who did you want to be in that moment that you wanted to be the firefighter, the doctor, the teacher, the I don't know, my daughter right now is on this big kick because she wants to be a surgeon. So, and I want to ask you, why did you want to be what it is that you wanted to be? And so for most of us, we, as children, we wanted to be loved or respected or heroic. We wanted to provide and to help and to make an impact. Most jobs, if you think about it, that kids will answer you with are about serving and about service, of what can they do to serve and impact the world. So when we're born, we're kind of naturally inclined to that, right? Because as a baby, people are taking care of us, they're serving us, they're feeding us, they're clothing us. And so right away, we start wanting to serve other people. And so I have a toddler. I am too old to have a toddler. I also have teenagers, and I have a toddler. You saw that from my picture. I am too old to have a toddler, and I can tell by the exhaustion at night when I lay down to go to sleep. But I want you guys to know that he wants to serve us the best way he possibly can. It is so obvious in the way that he wants to feed the cat his cracker, or feed the dog her bone, or to feed me the cracker that he just tried to feed the dog. Or the cat. So it's really obvious that right away we start to want to share, right? We want to pour out. But as we get older, some of that starts to really get buried, because we start to, that message starts to get diluted, and we start to tell people will say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you say things like, okay, so you say things like, I want to be, and let me tell you guys what I wanted to be. I asked you to tell me what you wanted to be, so let me tell you what I wanted to be when I grew up. Back a long time ago, and I'm probably aging myself a bit, but on PBS, there was this guy, and he used to wear like a painter's cap, and he had on a blue shirt and suspenders, and he was a wood carver. I don't know his name, and I don't know the name of the show, but I would sit and just be captivated by that show. I wanted to be a wood carver when I grew up. I know it's so random. I've never met anybody else who wanted to be a wood carver. So if that's you, please let me know, because I've been looking for other people. But that's what I wanted to be. And as I would start to share an idea like that, I wanted to be a wood carver, I just loved the way that he took something that was so insignificant, like a piece of wood or something that came from a tree and looked like a block, and he would create it into something that was useful, like a shelf or a table or a chair, or he would create it into a little figurine that you could look at and adore from far away, that just looked beautiful and made the world a more beautiful place. So I loved being able to work hard to carve and create and chisel whatever it was that was going to make a change or be useful in the world. And so, but what happened was I started to share that idea with people. And what did they do? They laughed at me. They looked at me like I was weird. Oh my gosh, you wanted to be what? You're not going to make any money doing that. You can't do that. And so little by little, the dream of being a wood carver became something that was really stupid. Oh my gosh. And now even today we laugh about it, right? Oh my gosh, she wanted to be a wood carver? What was she thinking? And so instead of me serving the world with a gift or a vision that I had, I was told that I needed to focus on making money. And if I wanted to use my gifts or my vision to serve the world, that probably wasn't going to be enough. So that's when I started beginning, when a lot of us, not just me, but a lot of us start living that life that I refer to as fear, obligation, and guilt. So if you break that down, fear, obligation, and guilt, spell the word fog. And I love the visual that that gives, of the fog kind of coming in and clouding your vision to where you can't go. So we start this conversation with ourselves super early in life. Fear that if I wanted to be a wood carver, that people will just, somebody might be here to do that, or you're not strong enough to do that. That's a lot of time away from your family. Are you sure you want to do that? Fear that we'll let our parents down or do something that maybe they didn't think we were smart enough to do. I want to be a surgeon. You can't be a surgeon. You don't have grades for that. Fear that we won't be accepted because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses. So if everybody else has been telling me my whole life that if I follow my servant heart, if I follow what I wanted to do to serve the world, what I truly wanted to do, now you're not going to be able to do what everybody else does. You might not be able to take those vacations because that doesn't pay enough bills. So then what happens is we start working, right? We start working in a job that we feel obligated to and we don't like it. And so now we've got bills to pay and we're attending parties we don't want to go to and we're trying to buy the best birthday gifts and we're trying to volunteer at all the organizations, and now guilt has taken over our lives. Because now we're constantly overcompensating for the guilt that we feel because we are grumpy all the time and we kind of hate our lives now. And so then we start fearing that we aren't enough. And so we stack on more obligations because we need to do more to be enough. And then the cycle continues. So I don't know if you've felt that cycle, and I'm not sure if you're in that cycle or not. But the reason that I talk to you about that cycle is that the place that you serve and the way that you spend your time, there's nothing in the world that is more personal than those things. So what is more personal than we spend your time? There's nothing. So we've been lied to. So I want you to ask yourself, who are you working for? Not what do you want to be, but who do you want to be while you're working? And some of what I'm going to say, I'm going to talk to you like you're maybe managing a team, or maybe you're managing some clients and you're managing other people. I really want to talk to you like you have a management mindset. But if you are the one who is posting right now or thinking on the other side that you're sitting in this place of feeling like, actually, I haven't identified my own gifts. Actually, I haven't gotten through my own fears. I haven't gotten through my own obligations. I'm carrying a ton of my own guilt. Look at that through your lens. So there's only so much time here for me to talk, so I don't want to confuse the situation, but I'm going to talk to you like you might be running a team of people that you want them to take their work personally, okay? So what I really want to encourage you to know is that we're not all seeing life through the same lens. So here's another lie. I'm kind of like ruining Christmas for everybody. I'm coming in the room and I'm like, hey, Santa's not real. So here's a bunch of lies that y'all have been listening to your whole life. So the first lie is that you shouldn't take work personally, right? The second lie that you have been living in and believing your whole life that people have told you is that you should treat people the way that you want to be treated. And I want to tell you that that is absolutely not true, because if we go back to that little toddler of mine who wants to share a slobbery little cracker with me and thinks he's serving me well, he hands me that slimy little cracker, and I do not want that cracker, right? But he'll eat that cracker, and he's like, it's so good. Cracker mama. He loves the cracker. The cracker's amazing. But I don't want the cracker, because that's not the lens that I'm seeing life through. We are not all seeing life through the same lens. So when you can start to get personal with the people you work with, when you can start to learn what their fears are, what obligations they have in their lives, what they're carrying into work each day or onto your team or into their jobs, you can really start to see life through the lens that they have, which is going to change your perspective for everything. going to make them more productive when you can serve them with what they want to be served with, not with what you want to be served with. I'm like a total tough love kind of girl. If you listened to the podcast that I did the other day, I talked about Trudy Pearson and how she really impacted my life with her tough love. That may have made somebody else run screaming and crying. I rise to the occasion when somebody pushes on me. Now, I may not like it in the moment, but long term it works really well for me. Somebody else that may not work well for. Some people need softer hands than that, but not me. That made me rise. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, go listen to the 1853 podcast. I'm so excited that I discovered that. Okay, so I'm going to tell you another lie that you've been believing, and that is that people don't like to work. So this is something that I told myself forever, is that people just don't like their jobs. Fine. You can go get a job and you can just show up at your job and you don't have to like your job. Liking your job is for like people who are special. There's special people in this world, celebrities, rich people, lucky, blessed people. They get to like their jobs. But me, I'm just an everyday person and I don't like my job. Or maybe you're managing people and you're seeing, you know what, people just don't like their jobs and that's just how it is. People, you guys, not true. People like to work, but they like to work when they're uncover gifts and strengths by uncovering their obligations and guilt that you're with it. So what our job is in our own life and in the lives of the people that we're working with is to combine their passion and purpose. So we really want to combine work and personal. So think about it. If we're all living in fear, that means we're all holding ourselves back just a little bit because we're afraid of what people are going to say, what people are going to do. It only takes a little bit of questions, a few questions, right? So we could ask people like, what would you do if you can ask our employees or ourselves, what would you do if you weren't afraid of anything? Where would you spend your time if you had no obligations to anything that y'all, I have 5 kids. I know about obligations. Like there are responsibilities and there are obligations. I'm talking about obligations. I'm talking about the things that you signed up for voluntarily that become a huge burden in your life. And you're like, why did I decide to do this? This is not serving me well. It's draining my energy. So what would you do if you had no fear? Where would you spend your time if you had no obligation? And who would you be if you were able to chase the dreams that you once had? If you were able to let go of all the guilt, who would you be? What would you dream of doing if you didn't have the guilt of being concerned about what everyone else is doing? See, you can create a job around your passions and gifts, and you can bring out the character in someone else that will make them rise up. Skill, anybody can have skill. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about how Monmouth College really nurtured that for me. But anybody can learn a skill if they know why they're learning it, if they're passionate enough about their purpose behind it to learn it. So anybody is capable of figuring something out if they know why they're going to figure it out or how it applies to their life. And so here's the thing then. The question that I always get is, okay, well, all this is good and fine, but I still have those bills. I still have my student loans. I still have a mortgage and a credit card bill because I did all of those things. But I'll tell you this truth in coaching literally thousands of women for 13 years. Thousands of women. I will tell you this. When your passion and your purpose align, the payment will roll in. I promise you, if you can wake up every morning, you guys, I'm this fired up all the time, and I am just so excited. I really am. It doesn't mean that I don't have bad days. It doesn't mean that I don't have bad times, but I have to get up in the middle of the night a lot of times and write down my ideas, and I can't wait to get up in the morning. I go to bed at night thinking gosh, I don't want to go to bed because I have more ideas I want to implement. I have more impact I want to make in the world. I have more that I can contribute because I am so laser focused on my passion and purpose. And that is what drives me every day. And so when I was getting ready to, when Rachel asked me to talk, and then I had Dwayne contact me to talk on the podcast, they said to me, well, how did Monmouth College contribute to any of what you're doing now? And I thought, gosh, that's such a great question. And so often we spend our time looking forward that we forget to look back and realize what impacts things have had in our lives. And so I want to tell you about how Monmouth College really brought out this ability in me to stop focusing on skill and start focusing on developing people and developing passion and purpose. So when I was in high school, I was a B.C. student at best. I mean, I was not anybody's dream student by any means. I was pretty sassy, and I showed up at work for social reasons, but I worked really hard, and I was in college because I think that was what everybody told me I was supposed to do. But I didn't first go to Monmouth College. I first went to Illinois State University. It's actually like in my backyard. It's a local college to me, and that's where a lot of people were going. So I thought, that seems good, seems fine, seems safe. And so I went there, and I think I probably attended about 2 weeks of classes because I was in classes with anywhere between, 50 to 400, 300, I don't know how many people, hundreds of people in lecture halls, and nobody cared. No one cared if I came in that classroom or I didn't come. If I didn't show up, nobody knew. I just couldn't pass the test. I was the only person that it mattered to that I was there or not. And that mattered to me. It mattered to me that I wasn't being seen, but in my head, I was telling myself, like, you're just not cut out for college. So I took a semester off. During that semester off, I looked around at a few different colleges that were about the same size as Monmouth, and they all told me the same thing. They all said, no way, you're not coming to our college because you have a bad track record. You flunked out of another college. You're a BC student at best. You have minimal test scores. No. And then I went to Monmouth, and Monmouth didn't ask me those questions. What they did was they brought me on campus. They showed me around. They got to know me. They invited me to do like an overnight thing, which was full of lots of crazy memories and some that are probably forgotten. And I fell in love with the campus, and I think the people that were there fell in love with me, and then they asked me what skills I was bringing to the table. And then they showed me where I would fit into Monmouth, and they gave me a chance. And not only did they give me a chance, but like I rose to the occasion because they invested in me. The professors were invested in me as a person. They were invested in giving me tough love. I showed up at their houses. We went to the bars together our senior years. Like, not that I'm condoning showing up to the bars with your students, but they were my friends. They're people I'm still connected to this day. And I have no idea. And I have 100% idea that nobody at ISU missed me when I left. And that's a great school, and it's a great school for some people. It wasn't a great school for me. And so what I learned at Monmouth College was that it's more about the character that we can develop, because once you develop character, we can really make that who we want to be fit into any job. I can be a servant leader in any job or any place. If that's what I wanted to be. Like, if I grew up and I wanted to be a teacher like Amanda, I actually know that I know Amanda still, and I have the privilege of working with her, and I know that Amanda still gets to teach to this day. And she may not be teaching in a classroom, but she's teaching in business, and she's teaching other women. And how amazing is it that she isn't just like, she had this vision in her head of, I want to be this, but it was not about the skill that it took to be a teacher. It wasn't like the check, graded papers, check, wrote the alphabet on the chalkboard, check, talk to the parents of PTO, check. Like, you guys, there's so many checklists we can put in place, right, for that. But it's about who you wanted to be and how you wanted to pour in to the people that were around you and teach, and who did you want to be in that moment. So I just want to encourage you to take what you're doing every day, and instead of asking what you want to do, Ask, who do you want to be when you're doing it? And ask yourself, how can you get rid of that fear, obligation, and guilt and really start living with passion and purpose? So that is what I have for you today, Rachel. Look at that. I even stayed on time with being late. It's pretty good for me. I'm not sure if she's going to come on or, oh, there she is. Okay, I'm going to let her take it from here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lindsay. I think that was very interesting. I'm seeing some positive comments in the chat. If you have any questions for Lindsay, please pop them in the Q&A box or the chat box. We'll kind of give you all a moment to think of those. In case, actually, do you want to say this part, Lindsay, where people can find you, and then we'll take some questions if we have any?
Absolutely. So while you guys are typing in questions, and if you have some questions, great. If you don't, it's pretty straightforward, but if you want to know how to apply it into your life and like what I'm doing to help apply that, here are some places you can find me. I will say I work mostly with women. So that is really where I like to dive in and work with women, but I do, coaching and teaching, and I have a book that really goes more into my story and how I got to this place and sort of the journey along the way. So here's some places you can connect with me if you do think of anything along the way. I don't see any questions popping up.
I don't either, and I don't see any note about that people are typing, which is fine.
Okay. Yeah, that means, I was a communications major. It really means that I was taught well, right? Communication.
Absolutely. Well, let's just hold on for just 1 minute, just in case people are typing things. Oh, I see a couple, actually.
Okay. I see one that says, how do you prevent some personal events like grief from affecting your job? So I think that there's a lot to be said for things like this that are happening. So when you have a big life event, I think communication is key to everything. And there's so many times that I would say like 98% of the time, any kind of conflict or any kind of anything that's kind of holding you back in life can be taken care of with a little bit of communication. And sometimes those conversations can be hard, but having some critical conversations with the people that it's going to be affecting. So asking for some grace is one thing. And this is sort of how I like to teach, how if you get a credit card and they'll tell you like, hey, it's an interest-free grace period, okay? So when you're going through something big, you never know. I mean, grief especially, it doesn't have an end, right? It's something you learn to live with forever. But I also think that there's a time that you have to give yourself to say, okay, I'm going to allow myself some mental healing and some emotional healing, and that grace period ends at this time. And then can you communicate that to the team or the boss that you're working with and say, hey, I'm going to need a couple of weeks, and then I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to be the best person I can be for you. And when I do have bad days, I'm going to come in here, and if it's okay with you, I'm going to let you know. Today I might be off my game a little bit. I'm just not feeling like myself. So when you can communicate where you're at, that's huge. And I will tell you, I know that one of the last Tartan talks was on Myers-Briggs. Personality tests like that, I'm an Enneagram coach. Those kind of things can be so helpful to you because it helps you put words to the way you're feeling and the way you need to communicate in order for you to be most productive. And so not to put you in a box, but so often it's all about words and like, how do I communicate where I'm at right now in my life? So I hope that was helpful. But
I had one that was just sent to me, and the question is, how do you teach your children about fog?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I love teaching my kids simple things. So I think, first of all, again, it's all about teaching them the language of what are you feeling right now? And oftentimes kids can't even describe what they're feeling. They don't know the difference between, being angry and being jealous. They don't know the difference between feeling trapped and feeling, I guess, inadequate. Like, they don't know the difference. So when you can start to identify emotions for them, that can be really big. So are you feeling afraid right now? Are you feeling, so with my kids, we will talk a lot about, I have one child in particular who just seems to be extremely, it's crazy because she's very, she's very confrontational, but very fearful at the same time. And so when she confronts, it's typically out of fear. And so one of the things I can say to her is I can say, hey, what are you afraid of right now? What are you hearing? What did you hear me just say? And so if I can ask her to repeat the question to me, or what she just heard me say, I can usually clear up a lot of the fear, because for me, what I'm seeing with my kids is that fear is typically a story that they're hearing that's not actually true. And then another thing that I just thought of when you asked that question was, I never ask my kids what they want to be when they grow up. Now I do, like I said, one of my daughters, she's a teenager, and she's like really into Grey's Anatomy right now. And I will tell you, I have to fight that instinct that I have to tell her, like, hey, you do know that you don't even like to do homework, so being a surgeon might not be it. But instead, I will say to her, what is it about being a surgeon that you want to do? So asking her more questions and letting them explore that. Like, what is it that you love about being a surgeon? And she got to be in the delivery room when I had my youngest, so she likes the icky stuff. She's like, oh, I just like the icky. And I'm like, well, do you like the helping? What kind of, and then I'll ask her questions like, what kind of surgeon do you want to be? Do you want to be known for being the #1 surgeon in the country in that particular area, or do you want to be known for having great bedside manner? There's no right or wrong here, right? We've got to have both in the world, but which one do you want to be? How do you want to show up at that job? And that way, if she doesn't become a surgeon, we can talk about what it looked like to have that good bedside manner in whatever job she does and to show up serving.
Thank you. I have another one, and that question is, what is an Enneagram certified coach?
Oh, well, so the Enneagram is a personality test. So it's an assessment. Enneagram is very different from some of the other personality assessments where they show you how you perceive me. Enneagram asks you the question, why do I behave this way? So it really forces you to do some self-reflection, and not to say, because me and Rachel could be doing the exact same thing, but we want a different message to come from what we're saying. So I have a different fear, just kind of like I was saying, we look through a different lens. Rachel has a lens she looks through, and I have a lens that I look through. And so while, I could spill a soda on the floor, I might clean that soda up because I'm worried what everybody will say about me if I don't. Someone else might clean the soda up because it's just the right thing to do. So it kind of goes from that within, like, why am I behaving this way? And so I help people eliminate their fears, obligations, and guilt. And in my coaching job, that's really what I focus on. But I think the Enneagram is a really great tool to really advance that and make it go quickly, like make it move faster in that.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. So I think you must have answered everything that people were thinking of today, Lindsay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Lindsay, for joining us today. And thank you, fellow Fighting Scots, for joining us on our Tartan Talk. This Tartan Talk will be available on our website. Oh, I just got to, let's see. On our website, I posted the link earlier, so you can rewatch that. We'll post it next week. There'll also be a pop-up survey when you exit the webinar. Please fill that out so we know how we're doing, and include any speakers that you would like to hear from in the future. The last thing I have is mark your calendars for our next Tartan Talk, which will be June 10th at noon. The topic will be Beyond 4 Years. We'll be covering the benefits of being a Monmouth alum with our very own Marnie Dugan and Jenny Sandberg. So we hope to see you then. Stay healthy and go Scots.
Thank you.
Thank you.